Imagine being the most famous person in the world. Imagine having millions of fans, standing ovations, your face on every magazine, your name on every marquee. Now imagine dying in a rented bathroom with empty pill bottles scattered across the floor and not enough money in your bank account to pay for your own funeral. This happened to multiple Golden Age Hollywood icons, and the details of how far they fell, what the system did to them, what they lost, how they spent their final hours, are so much darker than you've been told. Judy Garland was Hollywood's greatest triumph of pure talent over every possible obstacle. She was 13 years old when MGM signed her, and immediately began feeding her amphetamines to keep her thin and working 16-hour days. Barbiturates to sleep, more amphetamines to wake up. Repeat for 25 years. By the time she was 47, her body had been chemically destroyed by the same machine that had made her famous. She was performing at a London nightclub in the final weeks of her life, still magnificent, still capable of bringing audiences to tears. But she was broke. The IRS had seized everything. She was living in a rented house. On the morning of June 22, 1969, her husband found her collapsed in the bathroom. Empty bottles of barbiturates, an accidental overdose. The coroner's report made one thing clear. There was nothing accidental about the decades of drugs the industry pumped into her body. The accident was that she survived as long as she did. She was 47 years old. Her estate was worth approximately $40,000, mostly debt. The woman who had made MGM millions and millions of dollars died functionally bankrupt. But at least Garland got a massive funeral. Thousands of fans lined the streets in New York. 20,000 people filed past her casket. Bela Lugosi didn't get any of that. Lugosi was the face of Dracula, literally. He defined the role so completely that for decades after his death, every single Dracula impersonation was really a Bela Lugosi impersonation. And here's what happened to him. He developed severe sciatica in the 1940s. Doctors prescribed morphine. He became addicted. Hollywood stopped calling. By the mid-1950s, Bela Lugosi, the man who had terrified an entire generation, who had been a major star at Universal, was appearing in movies directed by Ed Wood, widely considered the worst filmmaker who ever lived. Scraps. Humiliating, barely released micro-budget productions that paid almost nothing. When he died in 1956, he was functionally broke. His son and his ex-wife made one decision that captures the full tragedy of his life. They buried him in his Dracula cape. Lugosi had reportedly requested it. The cape he had worn in 1931, the costume that made him a legend, became his burial shroud, because there was nothing else left. The fifth of his 5 wives was not present at the funeral. Frank Sinatra reportedly helped pay for it. Veronica Lake might be the most vertigo-inducing fall of all. In the early 1940s, she was one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood. Her signature look, the blonde hair cascading over one eye, nicknamed the peekaboo hairstyle, was so popular that the U.S. government actually asked her to change it during World War II.
You never heard of him?
No.
He's made quite a few pictures. Ants in Your Plants in 1939.
Oh, did he do that?
Yeah, did you see it?
Yes.
Well, did you like it?
Not much.
Some people thought it was pretty good.
I don't care for musicals. They hurt my ears.
I see.
Factory women were copying the style, and their hair was getting caught in machinery. That's how famous she was. The government intervened. 2 decades later, Lake was working as a barmaid in a New York hotel, under a fake name, hiding her face from customers who occasionally recognized her. She had been blacklisted, her marriages had collapsed, her money was gone, the industry had moved on. She died of hepatitis and acute kidney failure in 1973 at the age of 50, alone. The coroner's report listed cirrhosis, too. She had been self-medicating with alcohol for decades. The woman whose face had launched 1 million posters died in a hospital with no visitors, no headlines, no public mourning. Her son reportedly scattered her ashes in the Virgin Islands. No cemetery, no marker, gone. Now here's one that's going to hurt if you grew up watching classic comedy. Lou Costello, half of Abbott and Costello, the most successful comedy duo of the 1940s, did not die a happy man. His infant son, Lou Jr., drowned in the family swimming pool in 1943. Costello was at the studio when it happened, rushed home, but it was too late. The boy was just over a year old. Costello was never the same. He grieved ferociously and publicly, in a way men of that era were never supposed to grieve. He kept his son's room exactly as it was for the rest of his life. He poured money into charitable foundations for children. And then, in the 1950s, the IRS came for him. Bad investments, tax problems. The money he had earned, and he had earned a fortune, Abbott and Costello were box office royalty, evaporated. When Costello suffered a fatal heart attack in 1959, he was 52 years old, heavily in debt, and exhausted. He died just days before completing what would have been his comeback film. The last thing he reportedly said was about his son, the boy he had never stopped mourning for 16 years, and finally, the one that should make you angry. Hattie McDaniel was the first black performer to win an Academy Award, Best Supporting Actress for Gone with the Wind in 1940. At the ceremony, she wasn't even allowed to sit with the rest of the cast. She was placed at a segregated table against the back wall of the room. The hotel hosting the ceremony had a strict no blacks policy and had to be personally negotiated with just to let her in the building. She accepted her Oscar with tears streaming down her face. She died of breast cancer in 1952 at age 57. Her final wish, stated clearly in her will, was to be buried in the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. The cemetery refused, because Hattie McDaniel was black. They literally turned down a deceased Academy Award winner because of the color of her skin. She was buried in Angeles Rosedale Cemetery instead, which was one of the only Los Angeles cemeteries that accepted black people at the time. In 1999, 47 years after her death, Hollywood Forever Cemetery finally dedicated a memorial cenotaph in her honor. The Oscar she won? It went missing decades ago. Nobody knows where it is. The first black Oscar winner's statue is lost. Her burial wish was denied, and the industry that honored her wouldn't give her a place in its own cemetery. 5 legends, 5 staggering falls, 5 people who gave the world everything they had, and died alone, broke, or forgotten by the same machine that had built them up. The next time you watch a classic film from Hollywood's golden age, remember what happened to the faces on the screen. The system didn't just chew them up, it discarded them. And for most of them, by the time the end came, nobody was watching anymore.